Okay, I think we're live on 3 out of our 4 channels, so we'll go ahead with that. If you don't know me, my name is Elwyn Davis from Pixel Haze Academy. My job is to help people get over hang-ups with technology, software, in particular web design. And today we're going to be using Canva for creating thumbnails to sprucing up existing thumbnails and trying to get more engagement on videos for a client that I've been working with for some time. Hi, Sean. Thanks for agreeing to come in on a live session. Anything can happen in these sessions.
Of course.
So we go with the flow. But what I like about doing live sessions is it mirrors our regular calls that we have, where we troubleshoot and go through everything anyway. So again, anything can happen in this, but we'll try and get as much progress as we can. But to start it off, I thought we'll just do a quick recap of how we got here. The website redesign that we worked on, I think earlier this year, or tail end of last year, early this year. And yeah, looking at the website, I think it's really happy with it in place now. We use it as a showcase for some of the work that we do. So your wife runs this practice, Carmen, who's basically an industry leader in holistic dentistry. And I've learned an awful lot in a short space of time about that. And so our mission at the time was to, and where I came in was working alongside you, where you did the bulk of the content transfer and the preparation in a Squarespace website. And then we were meeting regularly then to go through it, troubleshoot it, and fix things as and when they cropped up. So the website, I think you've had pretty good feedback so far.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Excellent. So what we're looking to do as the next stage is to bring more people to the website. And one of the channels for that is YouTube. And Carmen and her team have already been creating content on YouTube, but we identified in one of the last calls that we had was we thought the packaging of that could be a little bit better. Video quality, in terms of it being production studio or like television quality, isn't as much of an issue, because actually the presentation as it's cropping up as and when a new conversation starts, and it's about the information as opposed to the packaging and presenting of the videos. We're going to work on some little tweaks for the presentation, but what we're going to look at first and foremost is the packaging, the thumbnails for each video, looking at the homepage or the landing page on YouTube for the channel, and then things like eventually then moving on to titles and descriptions as well, to make sure it all clicks together, it looks on brand. And what we're going to try and do is to marry it up with the look and feel of this website as much as possible. And here's a couple of sneak peek of a couple of thumbnails we did when we were building the website as quick examples, so that it would all feel on brand. And just double checking now, that's kind of our remit today, is we're going to have a go in Canva to create some more thumbnails.
Yeah, we're just looking for better branding across YouTube, because basically pretty much all of our marketing is social media. So we want kind of a more common kind of branded message, because we do create a lot of videos. We want to get them out there and make them available and let people see them and find them. So
yeah, and then a knock-on benefit of that is, with the use of ChatGPT and other AI tools, we can take the transcript from those videos, then build models and prompts that will allow you to be able to distribute that content across different platforms. So whether that's taking a YouTube video and then convert it into a blog post, and then that blog post can maybe go into a little more detail and then have the video embedded within the blog post as well. So we're creating that full ecosystem without having to hire a team full-time to be solely in content creation. The content is industry leading. So therefore, it's a case of making sure we're getting enough of that out so that the YouTube algorithm, other social media platform algorithms, even Google search for the website, which actually works in a very similar format to how Google will work. So all of that will click together, and we're not going to get there from kind of 0 to 100% straight away. It's about that evolution and baby steps each way. And today, it is baby steps in terms of what the volume of what we're doing, but this will have, I think, the most profound effect. So when we go back to our Canva file, we've got some thumbnails that we've already created in here and added them to the YouTube channel. And we started off very safe, kept it very simple. We have gone for an approach so far that looks professional over shocking. So a lot of thumbnails that work really well will shock the viewer into with a bold statement, or even someone looking very shocked on camera, etc., to grab attention for that hook. I don't think we need to work quite so hard in that respect here, because it's about being reassuring, by building trust. And when we're looking at the healthcare industry, where there is varying levels of trust across the whole sector, that's where we can kind of swoop in and look trustworthy, corporate enough without losing the personal touch. And so one of the biggest challenges we'll have is getting the balance between professional photos. So if we go to jump back to the website quickly, so our dentist page here, the great thing for me to work with is that Carmen brought in a professional photographer to take a photo shoot of her and the team, and we've got a couple of different versions of each of these headshots that we can use as well. That makes it so much easier to create this professional look and feel, because we can use the background remover tool, which is a Canva Pro feature. So we can't get this in the free version, but to take a photo without the background, and then we've got options, because we can look at other thumbnails that maybe have the background in them as well. So if I was to start from scratch now with a new template, there's a couple of different routes that we're going to go down. So I'm going to add a new page, and we're going to keep this really blank. Just double checking that I'm still showing the screen, because sometimes I forget that. Yeah, I say. So we've got this blank starting point. And the great thing about Canva is it's very much like Lego. So everything clicks together, and it's a playful way to design. And you don't have to be a professional designer who knows so many different tools and features, because a lot of these are pre-made. So what we're doing is more assembling a design as opposed to creating it from scratch. We don't have to use a gradient tool. We just find a gradient element via the search, and then we can add various effects to those gradients. So I've got some examples here already that we can copy. I'm on a Mac, so I'm in Command and C, and then bring it into another template and Command and V. And that instantly gives us a little bit more to work with on the canvas. We can stretch that gradient across, so it can blend naturally across that thumbnail. We can bring in a gradient from the other side. We've got to be careful that there's no lines or details in there, but that's a good starting point. And if I go to uploads, we can upload files from our computer, and we've got files for all of our client work here. So it's all a bit of a mess here at the moment, so apologies for that. But if we were to pick one of these photos as an example, this one, Carmen here, we can start working with this. So I'll just take the elements out of the way so we can see it better. And now I can right-click on this layer and then choose it to replace the background. So we've still got the gradients coming into it. Maybe that's a bit strong, so we can just move these off or just reduce the width of them. But this is an example of how we can use a photo and a gradient combined. We could create a line here and then have some text overlaying it, but that seems to, I've seemed to have messed that one up by expanding it. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one, move it across. And I'm doing this really quickly because I don't tend to spend too much time training people how to use the basics in Canva, because it's relatively intuitive. If you've used Microsoft Word, Google Docs, PowerPoint, any of these tools, you will pick up and even going back in time, Microsoft Publisher, you'll find this quite intuitive. We've got shapes, we've got a bounding box that allows us to rescale it. We've got the rotation option. And then we just click, hold, and drag with the mouse and move our shapes into position. So the limit is generally our creativity and understanding what we can do. Now, I know that can be quite a limit for a lot of people, because if you're not a professional designer, you don't really have the time to be thinking about this all the time, and you're not having the opportunity to work on other clients' projects so you can steal ideas and bring it in to work across multiple clients. That's the benefit we have as full-time professional designers. So this is where Canva, again, is really good, because I, as a professional designer, can create a template for you. And if you're watching this and you're using Canva a little bit, but you've got a professional designer that you've got a really good relationship with, then there's every chance that they'll be happy to create these templates for you, because it creates more work for them, but it's done in an efficient way that you're not spending too much time. So if we were to look at this as a starting point for a thumbnail, we've got two different options. We've got this one here, and I'm going to duplicate this one to show how we can adjust this, again, by editing the background image. And now we can go to the edit option here. If it'll let me, there we go. So the edit options, again, are they're paint by numbers in terms of how they're presented, which makes things a lot easier. So we've got the background remover tool here that we could add. So sometimes this can take a minute or two to create. That was really quick. And that then gives us a different type of layer to work with. But if I'm going to use the background remover, what I'm going to do is right click again and detach it from the background. And then I can bring the bounding box in so it doesn't start overlapping and interfering with other shapes as well. So now we've got that photo of Carmen with the background removed. There's a lot we can do with this effect. So the gradient, we can see it's cutting off there a little bit. So I think I'm going to bring in the option from here. I think when I scaled it, I shouldn't have really done that with this particular gradient. Oh no, we can still see the line there. So I think that's just how the gradient's been created. It doesn't blend exactly to that color. What we could look to do is to change the background color. So again, select the color swatch. I know I'm going through some of these aspects really quickly. So what we can do now is add a new color and then choose the color picker. So what I can do here is select it right at the edge of that line, so it should blend easier. But for some reason, it's not playing nicely, and it's not made a difference to how that works. So not quite sure what I'm doing wrong there. There might be it's transparent on the end. So this is where I would probably, to solve a lot of these problems, bring the opacity up, and then I would bring it all the way across the background, because we know that there's no line in that then. But it's starting to look a bit messy. So I've just put that gradient in the background so it doesn't interfere. But we're not really having impact. So one of the tricks for creating YouTube thumbnails is actually making the headshots larger. So zoom in a bit closer so you can see the person's face, and that builds trust, that builds familiarity, especially if you're a subscriber for a channel, and that all comes into play then. So now we've got a little bit of a gradient on there, so it's not as flat as just the solid background color. We've got Carmen in there, and we're ready now to add some additional content. So this is where we can go back to the YouTube channel. And I'm going to pick an example that's not a testimonial, because if it's a testimonial, we may use a still from the image for one of the clients. And if we've got time, I'd like to just spend 5 minutes to see if we can create that effect. But what do you think, Sean? Should we go for the SMART protocol?
Go scroll down just a little bit if you could. I'd like to do. Why don't you do the ALF dental device?
This one here. Okay, so I'm going to click on it to. Yeah, I'm going to click on the pencil icon here. So what I could do now is go to the website, go to the ALF page.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's under services, isn't it?
Under service.
Yeah. So we can. Is it Anna who's
It
Run
is.
this video. Yeah. Okay, so we can change the headshot, and we've got it already uploaded, so that's really fine. Can we use this one as the as an image?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Chrome extension that I use, which is quite handy. It's called Image Downloader. It's completely free, and we can just go and find the image somewhere here. And this is great if you've got multiple images on a page, or some photos you can't right-click and download. So that's brought that down now. So we do need to jump over then to Canva and go to Uploads and upload a new file. We go to our Downloads page window, then upload that. We can add this in ready to go. I'm not going to worry about doing anything else with it just yet. And then we're going to swap out the headshot. So I'm going to go to Uploads, and we've got a photo already uploaded. Or in this case, I could quite easily just go and pick this one from here, but I'll just show you how I've created that effect, because it's not just a case of the background remover. We've also done a couple of other things as well. So now with the photo selected, I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go back to the background remover. Such a wonderful, handy tool in Canva, and it's pretty good in terms of how it crops. Unless there's a lot of blurriness between the person and the background, it does that background remover really well. Background removal really well, should I say. And what I'm going to do now is to move it and then increase the size of the thumbnail of the image. These are nice high resolution photos, so it all works really nicely there. I'm looking at a bit of white space to get the balance right. So there's a bit of space here around the outside, and that's working well. And what we could look at now is an alternative gradient, like we've done with these ones. You see there's a glow behind. So I can select that layer and now paste it in. And if I right click on that gradient, now we've added it in, we go to layer, we can see the keyboard shortcuts, and we can actually send it to back because the background itself isn't included in the layer format. So we can move this to background, and that just lifts it from the page, from the thumbnail a little bit, so it doesn't look as flat, and it just adds a little bit of interest. And then just a case of moving Command's headshot back into position then afterwards. So we've now got the bulk of our thumbnail in place. Sometimes we can go with text in our thumbnail if we think there's a catchy message. Again, the thumbnail is our hook. We're trying to create scroll stoppers. So as someone's scrolling through their YouTube suggestions, it will then make them stop when they hit this thumbnail. So sometimes you can lean into fear. Sometimes you can lean into positive messages. Sometimes it can be how-tos. Another option is why you should be doing this.
Yeah, this would be informative. I mean, it's kind of like everything. So
yeah. So here, this is so the options we've got. We're probably not looking to shock anyone in this case. So we are looking to create content that informs or will help people make an informed choice. So some of the content is for healthcare professionals. Some of it's for the patient or potential patients. Is this one for patients?
It'd be for patients, yeah.
Okay, so
what it is.
So what we do is we trim back on any obviously industry specific jargon or terms and make it nice and easy accessible. Great. Okay, we'll jump back in and pick it up from there. So we've got this image here. If we were to carry on with it like this, we've got some options. So we can extend it, but the problem is now we're changing the ratio of it. We're losing some of the key details. We can bring it across, but now it's starting to overpower the image. Okay, now we've got and so there's no background. We could go for an effect that where there's an overlap, which makes it look thoroughly deliberate. We could put it on an angle. And that would stand out, but maybe not for the right reasons. So what I've done on previous examples, and if we just undo to go back to where we were at the start, we've used these circles. So we get a balance between some photos that haven't been taken in a professional environment with professional lighting, with a digital SLR camera. They've been camera phones, opportunistic photos in the room. And so that's why they're never going to be as professional or polished as the headshots, for example, which have been taken with a professional setup. So what we can do is go in and edit these photos. And this is something that I've picked up from people far more successful than me on YouTube. And it's a really good point, is what we're trying to do is to add a bit more punch to some of these photos. So more saturation, maybe more sharpness, just so that they, again, stand out that little bit quicker. And that's one of the best tips I've picked up when creating thumbnails. So here we've got the adjustments option. So I'll just show you how to access that. Click on the photo, click on edit. And then from there, instead of going for these filters or options we've got available or effects, we go to adjust. And from here, we've got a wide range of options that we can play around with. So if you've ever edited photos on your smartphone, very, very similar, different orientation. So let's bump up the contrast. We don't want to go too extreme, but we just want to give it a little bit more punch, maybe a little bit more brightness. We could look at the highlights, take the shadows down a tiny bit, and we can, so the blacks would be the black point in terms of if it's really, really dark gray, it's at what point it becomes black. I think that's how that works. And it's obviously, it takes it on a pixel by pixel basis. What we can also do now is increase the saturation and maybe even the vibrance. So vibrance is like saturation, it just works slightly differently. I couldn't honestly tell you what that difference is, but I just play around with those sets, those examples there to give a little bit more impact to that image. And then what we can also do is bring the sharpness up. We don't want to, again, go all the way up, but we can just bring it up a little bit there. And I'm just wondering if I undo. No, I was hoping that if I press undo, it would just take you back to how the photo was before. What I should have done was just added the photo in twice so we could compare the two, but we'll leave it like that and you just have to trust me. And what we're going to do now is find a way of framing it. So thankfully, if we go to elements in Canva, we can search for frames. I think if we just scroll down even without searching, we'll find them there. So if we look at all of these frame options, some of these are going to be too detailed, too busy, too cheesy, some cases, for what we need. So often we'll just go for the very simple shapes. We can go slightly out of shape, but ultimately a lot of the brand here is very professional, very clean and approachable. So that, I think, is important to carry this across. So I'm going to go with a suggestion again that we go with circles predominantly. It doesn't have the blunt, sharp edges. It looks perfectly helpful and informative, and it looks thoroughly professional. But what we can do is put a shape behind it, like this one here, which is a white circle. So first of all, though, we need to get this image inside the circle. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag it over top of the frame. And now we can see that's dropped into the frame. I can double click, and this is a square image already, so I don't need to do any adjustments, but you can adjust a photo within the frame as well. So it doesn't matter whether it's perfectly cropped to square. You can move it up or down, left or right, depending on the orientation within that frame. I could cheat here at this case and just go and copy this element and bring it in, but I won't. What I'm going to do is go back to elements and just get rid of the search. And we can see shapes comes quite high up here. So we can, again, search for all of those shapes just after a simple circle. Didn't mean to do that. Just remove that. It's not letting me delete it. There we go. So if we go back and I'm going to select circle, change the color. I'm not sure why that color is coming up, to the white. And now I'm going to use it, and we've got smart guys in Canva that will give you that crosshair so we know that that's at the middle of the photo. Now I've got to work out what the shortcuts are, but I think it's Shift, then Option, and scale up, and it will resize it from the middle. Handy little feature there. I think it will be Shift Alt on a Windows computer, and then click from the corner to rescale it up. What we can do at this stage is, again, right click, go to Layer, and now send it backwards. We don't want to send it to the back just in case there's some of this gradient overlaying it, and we want the clarity there. But now this should have this photo dead center within that frame, and we can just move it and just check with those crosshairs as well. Now we've added them together, and if we're happy with that as a set, we can select them both by using Shift. I'm holding down Shift before I select the second item, and from here we can group them. So now we have that we can move it around together, and we're not going to get it mixed up with any other areas. So here we can decide to follow the same form as we have done with other images. So here we've got two circular frames. This is a circular frame with a photo in, then a shape behind it. This one didn't need the shape behind. Then we use another shape for arrows. So again, we can search for arrow here. That's just the shape options, but if we go back to all elements and search for arrow, in fact, the search is still there. We can now go to graphics, and there's a huge array of ready-made arrows that we can use. And it's just a case of choosing designs that match the brand. So the tick here looks nice and friendly, but it's still professional enough. And then we're bringing the gold from the color palette from the website into the thumbnail. We could go with alternative thumbnails as well, ones that if you want them to really stand out from the others, and actually go with a gold background with the gradient effect, and then use green text over top of that. That's another way that we can go with it as well. So what type of additional information do you think would work with this particular thumbnail?
Well, I mean, I think you're explaining what it is. So would you put like a few words on there, like what is ALF or something? I would think.
Oh, that's, yeah, just literally ask the question.
Right.
Sometimes it's with these type of videos, sometimes it's the simplest messages are often the best. We don't, because we've got that thumbnail in place, we don't need to say what is ALF in dentistry, or in dental health, for example, because that thumbnail will link it for us. So it's about what we don't say.
Okay.
As what we do. So I'm just going to double check. I'm not sure if we've got your font uploaded at the moment, which we can upload custom fonts in Canva. So that's something I'll work with you probably off screen to get that in place. So I'm using Libre Franklin at the moment, as it's relatively close to your font, I think, in style. So it's close enough that it's not obvious it is different. So I'm just going to cheat here, and no, in fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write it out. So this is from our own brand toolkit. And so I'm going to start it with our font, and then we'll change it afterwards. So,
or you could just put ALF, or what is ALF? Okay.
We can start with this. If we think it's a bit wordy, we can adjust it. So first of all, I'm just bring the font size down a little bit. We can bring our headshot over to the right more to create more space for the question. If we didn't have writing, we'd bring the headshot more into the center. If we've got writing, we're trying to offset it and create balance in our design. What I'm also looking for, and this is a mistake that a lot of newcomers to design, or those who are just trying to get by with their own work and wouldn't call themselves designers, would do, is not leaving enough white space in the design. Sometimes it's not about the size of the font, it's about how much breathing space it's got around it, so it draws you in. So with every design, and a YouTube thumbnail is a really good example of this. We're talking hierarchy, but we call it spotlight. So if you were to shine a spotlight on one element of the design, and that can be quite hard with thumbnails, it's just like, what's the star of this show and what else is the supporting cast? So here we could argue that it's actually the question, what is ALF? And then the supporting cast, the presenter of that video, plus the hook in terms of it's about, and it's a dental procedure. They then support that question. So we want that writing to be big enough so it dominates or just edges out in terms of how it looks on the page. So one option we can do is go to this option here, left align, and we can see that there's a big gap here, and I think that makes it look a little bit disjointed. So what we can do is go to the spacing option in Canva and reduce that line spacing. So now it looks more compact, it looks like it's together, and what we can do now is go to our color palette. So these are document colors that I set up, but again, when you go with a Canva Pro account, you can set up your own brand colors. And so I've got my primary colors here from my brand, which won't be very helpful in this particular project. So one option with this green tone, white text looks really nice and bold and clear. We do need to change the font to tie in with your font library. This isn't your font, we'll change it to yours afterwards, and we can always re-upload those thumbnails.
Sure.
If we need to. It takes minutes to do so. So we're getting there, but I think that's still probably a little bit close to the edges. We want to give that more breathing space. We could, in this case, because I got a feeling that, do we need to see the whole of this photo, or even if we were to get the top 2/3, would that be okay?
Yeah, I think you just want to focus on that wire there.
Yeah, so if we were to go larger and then bigger, we can see these little hooks here in the wire. I know we haven't got this bit on the end, but if we can kind of get away without that, that I think creates a nice balance. And then we're just going to bring in, give this a bit more breathing space. We can also take the ALF, and maybe put this in gold. So again, that just stands out a little bit more from the rest of the thumbnail. We're not talking about award-winning YouTube thumbnails here. What we are looking for is tried and tested and reassuring. And I think even with the headshot as well, we're going to go into edit and we're going to go to adjustments, and we're just going to tweak this a little bit as well, just to add a bit more clarity and sharpness to that headshot. I don't want to change this much because they've been professionally taken, and usually what we're doing in Canva for YouTube thumbnails is making up for the imperfections on, say, smartphone photos. So I don't want to upset your photographer either by messing up the photos, but we are looking at a little bit more punch in the photos for this application than we would say on the website, because it's about grabbing attention as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So here, maybe we just bring it up a little bit, but having this cropping off the bottom, I don't think is a major problem.
Yeah, that looks good.
And I think we've got a nice balance. I think if we were to add one more element, it would be an arrow, basically linking the title with the image. So it's almost like we're storytelling through it. So what is ALF? And here's a hint. It's is it ALF or ALF? How is it usually referred to?
It can be, as different people say, the same thing, ALF or ALF. It's fine. Yeah.
Great. So this one here, we're looking at a curved arrow to link this to this. That may be too big, but what we can do now is rotate it and then bring it in. So what we're looking for is either to be clearly overlapping this white frame or not, or coming to the edge. What we don't want is being a couple of pixels out, because it's kind of neither here nor there. So to do this, I'm just going to make it a little bit larger so the tip of the arrow goes clearly inside the image.
Okay.
It's a minor detail, and it's not the end of the world either way, but it's just nice to do that. Now, what we could do here is move away from our color palette a tiny bit, and so I'm going to tweak this arrow. I'm going to go to the color here, and this isn't a color on your color palette, but it represents the tone of your color palette, and it doesn't move it away from it. I'm just going to go for a darker version. So I don't want that arrow to take away from the text or the image, but I want there to be enough contrast between that and the background so it looks nice and strong. But that's what we've got here now, is a thumbnail that I think is really informative. I think it's It's on brand, it's balanced. We haven't even put the logo on here, and that's a mistake I think a lot of people make, is where they feel that they need to put their logo and quite large on their thumbnails, when in fact it's about the consistency of font, of color, of the way you lay out your designs. But at the same time, on that point, there is a trap that some people fall into where they will create the same thumbnails over and over again. And this is where we spoke previously. I said it might be worth getting some more headshots as well in future of the team, just so we can change the angle of it without obviously going for the option of flipping the photo. Like, this is something we can do. It always looks weird when you flip a photo the first time, but this is something that we can do, obviously, and then move the headshot over to the left, and that can work well. But if every thumbnail, if they all start to look very much the same, then your regular viewers or subscribers are potentially going to think it's the same thumbnail. So we need a little bit of variety without losing the brand. And so that's why I think this one works quite well. The photo's in a different position, different size. It's cropping off the edge, whilst with some of the others, we've got them here, or this one with two. And my recommendation is to use all of these orientations and keep mixing them up every now and again. But what you can then do in the next thumbnail that you start working with is to duplicate the one that you want to mimic. Okay. Then go in and drag in elements, change the wording, maybe even remove the wording and go with a bigger photo, different arrow, different orientation, different size headshot. And then you can tweak what's already there, as opposed to thinking, okay, what am I going to do as a starting point for this? Then with all that in mind, then you can start changing the position of the backdrop then and that gradient to adjust to match your thumbnail. So once we've done all of that, and we can now go to share, then download. And we're either going to be creating PNGs or JPEGs. So PNGs are great for logos or illustration, or just solid colors and text. But because there's a lot of detail in these thumbnails, there's two photographs, there's a gradient pretty much on everything. So we don't have a flat surface with single color surface on much of this at all. So this would lend itself to a JPEG better than a PNG file. Another thing to know as well is if you're ever looking to download transparent images, so for example, if we just wanted Anna or Carmen on a transparent background, so you could use it elsewhere, like on a website with an animated background or a gradient background, we would have to use PNG for that, because JPEG doesn't support transparent images. So what we can do here is just change this to JPEG. One thing we didn't do actually as part of this is actually create a new file in Canva. So all we need to do is just search in new designs in Canva and search for YouTube thumbnail. And then I've just chosen a blank YouTube thumbnail, which means it's at the right size, which is 1280 pixels width and 720 pixels height, so or 720p.
That's the size of the whole file. That's the size of the whole file, right?
Yeah, each thumbnail is that size.
Okay.
So what we can do now is add. So it hasn't broke Canva, but I must be getting close now. I've got about 190 thumbnails on one of my files. I've just been too lazy at the moment to create a new one, because I reuse so many of the elements. And when you start getting to 15, 20, you can go back through your previous thumbnail and think, oh, that's a nice idea. I'll reuse that effect for this thumbnail because I haven't used it for 2 or 3 months. And then we'll use that effect and bring it back in. For especially those in the entertainment industry or those in really competitive markets, that may not be enough. You need to spend a lot longer on your thumbnails. And actually, any content creators or coaches of content creators will say that you should actually start with the title and the thumbnail, and then you create your video content around that. But in Carmen's case, right here, right now, it's about creating more content and being comfortable enough that if you sense an opportunity and you feel that would make good content for your audience, to go and take that content, and then we'll address the thumbnails at the end. But if you get into a process of 6 to 12 months in and you're building an efficient machine, that's where it's good then to flip around and go with your thumbnails first. I wish I practiced what I preach on that one. I'm still kind of 50-50 whether I create the thumbnail first or the video first. So what I'm going to do now I'm ready to download, I need to select the pages. So if we select all of them, it'll download all of these in a zip file, all as JPEGs. So instead, what I'm going to do is deselect that and then go to the page that we're on. And I'm just going to download this one. So sometimes I'll create 5 or 6 thumbnails and then download them all in one go, because that's a little bit quicker than to update on there. But because we're just showing one as a demo here, I'm downloading this one. And then we can see the time it's taken to download it. Obviously, if we're downloading lots of thumbnails all together in one zip file, that will take a little bit longer. Now we can go back to the YouTube, and we've got the thumbnail option here. We can upload, and we can see our thumbnails ready to go. And that, I think, makes a big difference to how that video is presented.
That looks really good.
Yeah. So here, I would then look at the next step, which you don't have to do this right this minute, is, okay, can we go into a little bit more detail for that title? Because it's the combination of the title and the thumbnail. So ideally, we don't want to be saying the same thing on both.
Right.
So the title could be how ALF works, or the process, ALF, the entire process, or whatever the video will cover. So something to draw them in, to make them stop. Like other videos then that become quite popular in this type of niche, in terms of, are we still using ALF in 2025?
Okay.
And then it becomes time specific. There are people who even just change that then into 2026 if the content hasn't become out of date, if it's still the same answer. So I'm going to save that, and now that's live on the YouTube channel. So if we go here, we can see the thumbnail loaded, and then we're into the video. So we've been speaking before. I've got it on mute so it doesn't interfere with the microphones. We spoke before then about little tweaks and adjustments for future videos, going kind of landscape for these longer videos, and then slicing them up into short form videos for under 1 minute of content. But generally, this is fine, because I still think this is informative, helpful information. So my recommendation would never be to pull the videos offline that you've already got. What we're looking to do is incrementally develop and improve them going forward. And by improving, I don't mean the content, I mean the presentation of it.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so that's the process. Before we went on air, I said it was going to be about 20-25 minutes, but it's amazing how much longer it takes when you're actually talking through the process as well. So what I'm going to do from here is create a few more thumbnails in different, in the overall set, all on brand. And these are thumbnails that you can use as templates. So I'll create them off existing videos so we can update and replace them. But then once I've created another 3 or 4, you can then pick it up and run with it. And then you can jump into our community support calls to get some feedback on them as and when you're going through. And obviously share your frustrations with Canva, because you probably have 1 or 2 as you're adapting to a new platform. Yeah,
I imagine it's like doing the website, right? You just struggle a little at first, but then you pick it up pretty quickly. So
yeah, and I think from my experiences with Canva, I think you pick that up quicker, because it's more the term, I don't know if Fisher Price or like a toy firm, I'm not sure if they're the UK only, but that's what a client said to me many years ago, is something he wants it to be very Fisher Price, which means like toddler friendly almost. So it's just kind of clicks, you can pick it up and assemble things. And that's what I love about Canva, is it's got that element, that Lego kind of click in, and it works most of the time.
Yeah, the challenge, I think, is just, we're doing a lot of videos, so and you don't want to have all the YouTube thumbnails the same. So, but I think you learn, right? And you want to have a common brand that looks professional, even though you're doing a lot of videos on cell phones, like all of them. So
yeah, and cell phones have become so much better now. The cameras on them, the setup and everything. So both for taking stills for thumbnails and for taking the actual video content as well. But the recommendation is if it's slightly longer, if it's longer than a minute, rotate it to landscape. If it's under a minute, or I found the best results, and I've only really started creating short content properly in the last month or two. And what I found is dedicated short content is better than sliced up content. But sliced up long form content in short form content is still far better than not having any. It all obviously helps. And the benefit of that approach using something like Opus Pro, which will automatically slice up long form content. So this video, for example, it can create maybe 10 different short form videos. 7 of those may not be suitable enough for the angle I'm looking for, but I can then fine tune and edit them. But if it's that time and budget versus what you want from it as well, because I think the overriding aim isn't necessarily to get millions of subscribers. It is to find those that potentially could be influenced the most in a positive way by the videos. And so if that's a niche of 50 people, but that 50 people could generate a lot of business, then that's where a lot of what they call contrepreneurs are moving towards now, where you are focusing on a smaller audience, niching right the way down to a very niche audience. You may only have 500 views on a video, but you may have made 10 sales because those 500 viewers, 100 of them are very much your targeted audience. And then you found those 5 or 10 then at the right time when they are contemplating it. So all of that, I think, helps to kind of to streamline. But at the moment, I would say keep creating content, and then we can have a look then in future sessions at the data and to see which videos are performing really well.
Yeah, it's really two things. It's to inform, because a lot of people aren't familiar with non-metal dental implants, pure ceramic. And the other thing is there's a lot of patient testimonials too. So those are the two main things we're trying to get. So, and then, it'll be interesting. I guess we could talk about how to do testimonials, video testimonials, because we have a number of those. So
yeah, and they actually work really well in short form as well. So you give someone 30 seconds, and sometimes something I've been doing recently that I haven't actually produced many videos yet, I'm still setting it up, is to actually, and we do this for our coaching community in terms of, okay, what was your kind of biggest headache before joining the community? Then second question is, what have we been doing together in the community, and explain it and how that's helped. And the third question then is, if someone was on the fence of joining our community on School with a K, what would you tell them? And hopefully, obviously, the people I'm asking for testimonials, which I think is everyone so far, they have at a point where I'm comfortable to ask them for a testimonial because I've been helping them for several months in a row. And so it's not a case of just going for an easy, quick win, get the testimonial then, and then move on to someone else and then letting that person down. That's why the time delay is really important as well, to make sure that it's genuine after a period of time. In this case, it could be obviously it could be an operation or a ceramic insert, and then it could be the discussion then that patient returning 3 months later to say how they've been feeling, potentially pain or problems beforehand, how they feel reassured, and in this case, because I think the process, it's slightly more expensive, isn't it? I think than the alternatives. So therefore, it's a case of like the type of testimonials will be, I'm glad I paid that bit extra for that reassurance.
And then the other thing is, she wants I was talking to Carmen, she wants a video page on the website, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do, because I think you mentioned they kind of they can load a little slower. It's better to maybe have that.
That's not so much of an issue, actually, the loading time. A video header on a page will slow down the loading of it. So for example, the hero section or the main banner or billboard that sits at the top of the site. I'll just bring it up quickly now, actually. So we've got So we've got the website homepage, and at the moment we've got the interior. What we can do is replace this with a video, again, professionally taken. It could be taken with a digital SLR camera that's got a record function, because we don't need sound for it. And then, so that could be transitioning them between shots of procedures, maybe this slightly moving in the reception area, and that draws attention to the quality of the premises. So in this case, I think load time isn't as important. If someone wants a better treatment, a better service, then they're generally going to be more patient because they're going to want to look at every little detail. They're going to want to make sure that all the questions are answered. Yeah. I'm generalizing, but that I think will make a big difference. So I think in this case, a video hero section or header on the homepage will work really well. The only reason I would say about bringing all the videos together in like a video gallery page, if I got it right, that's what kind of you're referring to.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily increase load time noticeably. That we're fine on that front. But are we not better off scattering those videos throughout the content on the site?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Blog posts, service pages. So we go to the service page. I think we've done it with a couple of them already. So again, the ALF page. We can have 3 testimonials on that page about that treatment and procedure, which is going to be in the process when someone's navigating through that website. They land on the homepage. We signpost them off to the page that's most suitable for them at that time.
Yeah.
They then look at the service, and they want to be able to all of their concerns, all of their questions need to be answered within that window of opportunity. So what we're not going to do is put in loads of extra information that's really not important. That's why we don't put our website terms and conditions at the start of these pages. They need to be in there. Obviously, they're important, but they're secondary in terms of priority to, okay, what pain points have you got? This is how we can fix them. This is our heritage and background. And oh, this is what other people have said with their glowing references and testimonials about what we do. And videos are by far the strongest because, you know, they come across more authentic, more genuine. And the quality of testimonial videos doesn't really matter. In fact, if you had them too polished, it looks like you've staged the whole thing, whilst you want testimonial videos to feel like someone's just said, yeah, I'll do a testimonial now. They've said it on the spot, no script. And it doesn't matter if they say and ah lots through the video. It's about kind of, but the one thing you can do is ask, say, 3 questions, and then the testimonial is based on that. So you can, without controlling, saying, please say this, this, and this, what we're doing is saying, okay, what was the obstacle? What was the challenge before you spoke to us? What happened? So what did we do together? What options did we provide you? And then finally, if someone else was considering this treatment, this operation, what would you say to them?
Right.
And that you can adjust it then to each individual testimonial and case study. And then you could add case studies around it as well. So that's great news or blog content as well, where you can do individualized case studies.
Yeah, I think we'll do that. I think we'll just put a couple more testimonials on each particular site, and then we'll with the custom thumbnail. So yeah, I think that's probably the way to go, and we can get that updated pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And then you've got a platform then which you can keep building, keep adjusting, keep moving forward with it then as well.
Okay, great.
So yeah, we've done just about an hour there. Just shy of it. So thanks for your patience as I've been through it. As I said, this isn't necessarily a Canva for beginners thing, because this has been laser focused in on YouTube thumbnails, and I've tried to get a balance between good practice or some of the best techniques that I found for YouTube thumbnails and using Canva as well. Whilst if we were just focusing on using every feature in Canva, we wouldn't have got very far through the process. So if you are interested in finding out about the basics of Canva, head over to pixelhaze.academy, and we've got a free introductory course workshop on Canva on that site, and you can access it from the homepage. Thanks, Sean. Really appreciate you coming on and providing me with this kind of nice little challenge for this afternoon. And
no problem.
We'll probably have a catch up very soon.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Cheers.
Super. Bye.